Hello everyone, my name is Dalayah. I also go by Lele. I am a Seattle native. I am the youngest of 8. I attend UW. I hoop sometimes. I love to eat. I will say that. I love to eat. And I just like to have a good time. I like to be happy and make people feel good.
Finding your voice and identifying it as yours.
Yeah.
And then going through, like, of course we are the saying of like the mundane adds up to the extraordinary, but it sounds like it wasn't mundane for you. It kind of sound like monotonous, like the same thing. And I, of course, the popular saying of like insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. What was that moment for you where it clicked like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I've
been doing the same thing and I'm not getting a different result.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes I feel like God sends an earthquake in your life when he sees that you're getting too comfortable. And I feel like he attacked my mental health in that way. Not saying he's the one that caused just like the things I was going through, but I think he sent me signs on the low. You know, like I was going through a lot of depression all throughout high school, actually, and all throughout college, like since I've, you know, and it got really bad when I was going through the mundane and kind of just going through, or the monotonous phase, I guess you could say. But a lot of it like was mundane. Like I wasn't having fun hooping anymore. I was barely going to class. Like it was just, I feel like it's hard to keep going when you don't know what your purpose is. You don't know your why for doing things. And so every single day I woke up, it was like, it got harder and harder and harder. And like one day I just, you know, I'm just like, why am I here? I just feel like I'm just like wasting time, wasting money, like not even like my own money, but it's just like I'm wasting someone's money. Like someone else could be in my spot right now dealing with this in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it just got to a point where it's like, okay, like this just is not who I want to be anymore. This is not where I want to be anymore. I want to be where I'm loved, where I'm valued, and where I'm growing. And I wasn't any of those things. So, you know, I think when I was hit by that like reality check, I was okay. Like in order to have a lot, you have to do a lot. And so I knew that in order for my life to change, I had to make a drastic change, which was transferring. You know, transferring is scary. Like, no matter where you go, whether it's back home, I knew it was going to be a risk wherever I went. Like, I think anyone was like, okay, well, if she goes back home, she'll be fine. But it's like, even my transition here was really hard because I was coming from a very, very different culture to a much healthier culture. And because of the habits that I had built in my previous culture, I thought it was okay. And now I'm like having to like unlearn a lot of like the bad habits that I had, or just the habits that will not serve me here. So, and I think that's something that we've all had to learn, you know, whether it is like you're having a new job, you go from one job to the other, you've been at a job for 10 years and you end up getting promoted, you know, the same, you know, the character that you had at this place might not help you stay at the next phase of your life. So it's like you have to like learn to adapt, you have to learn to grow and have some self-accountability, because I think I also like had a part in like my suffering as well, because I let it go on too long. And I feel like sometimes we get too comfortable, like I said, just like in the routine. And I think eventually like the routine just got too much for me. So yeah, I think I don't know like why God does things sometimes, but I want to believe like it's for a bigger purpose. So I try not to like question his decisions or the way that he handles my life. And because I've become more process focused instead of result driven, I've just had a lot more peace in my life, and I've honestly like been able to be where my feet are, like we were talking about before. I've been able to like enjoy, and I also think I've impacted more people in the past like however many months I've been here than over the past 2 years when I was a freshman and sophomore, because I was just like, I was in the moment physically, but like mentally I was not, like, you know, I wasn't there. And so yeah, I'm just trying to grow on this, honestly, and see, I don't know what else there's out there for me, or who I am going to be tomorrow. But I hope that it's someone that I'm proud of and someone that's making other people smile. Not happy necessarily, because I think people can want something from you that you can't necessarily give, but I want to be able to still show up for people and still be that light, you know. And that's probably something I wouldn't have said a year ago. I was more selfish and like, okay, like, what do I need? What do I need? Instead of like saying, okay, like what do I need, but how can I also pour into others, you know? So
but one of the major things that I gathered from what you were saying, you talked about mental health, right? And even your perspective on that is so profound, because a lot of people will see that as something that's to cripple them and something that's to tear them down, but you're now declaring it as something that was actually sent to wake you up.
Yeah.
You know, like it shook you up in a hard way, but enough to make you want to change, you know.
Yeah.
Like an earthquake. Like that was so well put. And then also talking about culture and the cultures that we're in. And that's so good, because I think sometimes we move through life and we navigate unconscious that we are submitted to something. Like the culture that you're submitted to. We're in Western culture. We're submitted to certain principles, ideas, values of this culture.
Yeah.
And being willing to uproot yourself and seeing that parallel to, a lot of times all of us you're uprooting it, whether you're moving out of, let's say, your childhood neighborhood into like where you're supposed to go for school, or like you use the work example, you are now coming under, submitting to a culture and principles that you live by. And sometimes we submit to things that aren't even healthy or aligned with our purpose.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes dangerous, because like you said, you woke up and you're like, what am I even doing here? Like, I'm living someone else's life. This ain't my life.
This is not my life. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
And there's something greater for me, and I got to find that thing. And you get relentless, because you're like, I've been living beneath. I had this experience also. Like, I'm living beneath all my greatness. Like, even if I feel like I'm rubbing up, like, okay, I have light, I'm shining it, but this ain't as bright as it could be. Yeah. Like, we need to turn this thing all the way up. And that's important, but you're always worth that risk. Like you said, you're liking the mistakes you're making because you're at least trying. Yeah. You know, you're at least putting yourself out there. So I'm sure yourself a year back is like, wow, this is what I could have been, you know, and being willing to participate in that process and not having to worry. Like, the thing about you with that process is that there's commentation that comes with it, because you are on one, you're a public figure in the sense that you are a student athlete at a globally recognized university and top ranked university. Yeah. So there's not just like, oh, Bill is leaving his job from the corner store to the gas station, and it's his family and friends. This is more eyes on you. How did you balance that pressure?
Well, first, I think whenever you transition, I think a lot of people have this mindset of, you know, well, man, I got to start over now. But in my eyes, it's like, you're not starting over. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Nice. And so for me, it's okay, I'm going to take everything. What didn't I do? How did I not handle things the way I should have handled them? Because when I come here, I can't bring the same habits I did, because then I would basically still be the same person I was when I was there. Then I should have just stayed there if I was going to do that. Yeah. You know, so I did a lot of like reflection, and I realized that, you know, I wasn't handling that well. I wasn't handling, you know, the spotlight well. I wasn't handling a lot of things well. And when I came here, again, a lot of it was just because the people that I surrounded myself with, they made me realize that it's not as deep as you think. And I think as an athlete, you think, you know, you have to perform every single, like every night. You have to be this, you have to be that. But it's like, you have to be you have to be enough things to yourself in order for you to like show up the right way for others. So it's like, what do you need to, how do you show up for yourself, not how do you show up for the media? And I feel like that's something that I've learned how to do since the season started. And I'm still like learning, okay, like what fits me, what doesn't fit me. I never try to get too high and I never try to get too low. I think that's what's also helped me this year. I feel like if you would ask my freshman self, whenever I would have like a really, really good game, it would probably be all over Instagram or all over like some like paper or something like, oh, you know, and I feel like that's just like a small-minded person. I feel like when you get to college, like you're not used to that. So it's like, wow, like this is so cool. But it's like when you have like those low moments, you don't really know how to handle them. Because you were just up there last night, you know, it's a new day today. Anything can happen. So I think now I was being interviewed after the game yesterday, and they asked me, like, how did you guys pull off this win? And I'm just like, well, we never get too high and we never get too low. You know, you just gotta stay balanced and never let the bright lights, you know, never let them like overtake anything in your life, or never let them like make you feel like something that you aren't. Because I'm not like a big star or anything. I feel like for me, I show up and try to do the same thing every single day. And if that happens, that happens. But it's like, you know, how other people see me isn't my business. So it's like, I know like for me, like as long as I see myself as someone that I'm happy being, then like that's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm handling it well. I feel like as a student athlete, going to like therapy and stuff, that's helped me a lot too. Making sure that I'm filling the cups that need to be filled, whether that's spending time with friends, family, spending time with myself, asking myself like what it is that I need from myself or what it is I need from others. And then also just like, I don't know, taking time to like learn the world and learn more than just like what it is that I'm studying or what it is that like I'm performing in. So I think like we all just like have cups that sometimes they're not filled. And I think that's why we have like imbalances in our life, and it may be hard to, as an athlete, to fill all those cups because you don't have that much time. But I feel like time is just like, people use time as an excuse, where I think like if you really wanted to do something, you would, and you'd make time for it. So it's like, if I want this thing, if I want this goal, like I have to compartmentalize the things in my life so that I'm able to get there. And I can't let these certain things get to me. You know, I can't let little things get to me if I want to get here. So yeah, I think I'm handling it well. And I don't think all athletes like know like the resources that they have because they don't always like seek it, but it's not always transparent either, like where they are. So, or like offered the same way. So I think I'm just like grateful to have like a support system here where I know I have the resources and I know exactly like where I can get them. And I think that's why I've been more successful than I have been in the past.
I love that analogy about the cups. You know, like I see like those little cups that you get at offices and some are open, some are full, some are empty. But it's so important to be self-aware and introspective to say, this is missing. Yeah. And doing what you need to do to fill that cup. I've been reflecting a lot about the difference between personality and character. And it sounds like, you know, early on when you're a child or in your adolescence, for those who are able to have that support, examples, etc., character is developed. And character is so powerful because the basis of our character, like the core of it, is our belief systems. And like what you talked about, a feeling like I didn't have like values to be like, this is the root for that. Yeah. So a lot of it was personality, and you had and still have a great personality of like humility and grace and kindness. And that's what you were taught. But the basis of what's beyond that, it sounds like you're developing those building blocks for yourself. Yeah. And it also sounds like a beautiful journey, but one you've had to be really present to and tend to and alert of. And it's so important that we think about that difference between personality and character, because we live in a generation that's like, oh, I like this person's personality, but your character's trash. Like, you're not reliable. You're not who you say you are. Like, you're a liar.
That's facts.
You know?
I didn't think about that.
The reason why I said like seeing God the way that he sees me change me is because now I know where to base my character in.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was based in my performance. Talk about that moment of like, how have you been able to retrieve the building blocks to be like, these are the things that are implementing Dalayah. These are the parts of me that's informing my integrity and how I show up. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think just as far as like character wise, well, I knew that like basketball, whenever things would go right, it's so easy to be nice to people. It's so easy to show up every day and, you know, be the same person when things are going well in your life. But when the thing in your life that you're doing every single day, which for me is basketball, is not going well, then it's like my character is what is heightened, you know. It's like, how are you even like in the bad moments of your life? Are you still the same? Do you still make your bed in the morning? Do you still do the little things that you were doing when things were going good? Because like I said before, like never getting too high, never getting too low, never, and I think like going back to like the cup analogy, never filling too much of a cup, because then sometimes you forget that this other cup that needs water or needs nutrients or needs like attention, it's like, you know, you forget how to be there for that. You know, you forget, I think like if you're pretending to, you know, be this person that you're not, it's like you forget who you are when the time comes that you need that person. Like, you know, I feel like for me, when things would ever like happen good in my life, whether that was basketball or just something good happened in school, I knew I was always like, I was a good person to be around. But when things weren't going well, it was like I could just remember, like even back when I was like in high school, like I would treat people really unkind because of the way that I was feeling. You know, I probably wasn't the most reliable person. I still could work on that, but it's like,
it's a training
you know, it's
thing.
you know, we're still getting there, but I know that at least I'm getting there. I know I'm growing, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I'm not, again, like what I play. I'm not. I don't know. I'm more than an athlete, like you said. But I'm also just trying to learn how to be the same person every day. And I'm trying to also like train my character in a way where it's like I'm still being reliable when things aren't going my way, or when things are going my way. You know, it's just trying to stay consistent. That's like my main word for this year is just consistency. Whether that be in your, like again, like your chores or schoolwork or, you know, your day-to-day life, just being consistent in whatever it is that you do. My coach always says, like, be consistent or don't be consistent, you know, because at least we know what we're going to get when we see you. So I don't want to walk into a room and be like, oh gosh, I hope she's not going to be like this today. Like, I don't want to be like that, you know. I don't want my sport to dictate how I walk into a room the next day, you know. So yeah, like last night, it was a really fun night. Like, we beat the number 2 team in the nation, and I was on top of the moon, like, when I woke up, and I was like, I still can't believe we did that. But I feel like if we would have lost, I feel like the old me would probably think my life is over. You know, I probably wouldn't make my bed in the morning. I probably wouldn't brush my teeth. I probably would just like lay in my bed all day and just feel sorry for myself. But I think no matter what the outcome of that game would have been, I know because of the character I've been building, at the end of the day, like, I knew I was going to be okay. I knew I was still going to have my priorities in place. So
when you talk about like yourself, maybe a year or two ago, if the game didn't go as planned, which is a dub, which ended up happening. If it wasn't a dub, you would have like shut down for like kind of what you're describing. Was that in part because a lot of who you defined yourself to be was in the game? Yeah. I think, especially with women, it's different. Yeah. Because you have...
It's more mental, I feel like, for women. It's not like I feel like we put more emphasis on things that don't really need it. I feel like for men, no offense, I feel like for men, they kind of just go with the flow sometimes.
Yeah.
Or just like, okay, YOLO. More as women, we feel like, for the most part, I'm not saying all men and women are the same, but for the most part, women we're just a lot more emotional. We take things a lot more personally, and we think things are a lot more deep than they actually are. So when I say that, like, you know, my life is over, or, you know, like, I don't matter, it's like, I feel like because I've been pouring so much into this cup, I don't really know that, you know, what else is out there for me. I don't really know that I have more value than what I'm selling myself for. So it's, you know, I feel like when I stopped pouring so much into this, into my sport, not even like just like working hard, but just like when I stopped mentally pouring myself into that, is when I was able to kind of open the doors, or have more doors, or like you said, have the knowledge to go through doors that I was meant to walk through.
Yeah.
So now it's like, whatever game we play and whatever the outcome may be, I come back home and I'm going to do the same exact thing again. And we're just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, because eventually, like, we're going to get to where we want to be, and I'm going to get to where I want to be as long as I'm consistent. So
I'm a writer, and I love words and looking into definitions and like, you know, again, what's the substance behind things? And two words I was comparing, I actually wrote a column piece on this, was persistence and consistency. Persistence is being able to show up like consistence despite obstacle. And I was like, okay, consistency is dope, but I want to be let's take it up another notch. I want to be persistent. And it sounds like you've been laying the blocks for that as well.
Yeah.
Part of that for me comes from having a foundation that isn't shaken by the obstacles. Yeah. And having the wherewithal to say, me showing up in this space as I am with integrity will shake things up. I will be the guarantee. Yeah. Despite that mountain being before me, I'm still going to be the guarantee, you know? Yeah. And it takes a lot of, again, that assurance and what I'm standing on, you know? Like we talked about earlier, finding the ground to stand. Yeah. Finding the strength to stand again. Now I have these tools so that when that mountain does come, because it's going to come, you know, how do I stand before it and have enough strength to say, move? Right. You know? Right. How are you getting there? Have you had experience? Have you faced some mountains in these 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm. My mountain was my old self. Ooh, trying. So good. It was just like, it kept trying to make its way back into the healthy parts of my life and trying to like ruin it. And for me, it was like, I had to fight the urge of, you know, do I sink back into my old habits? Do I let that person, because there was a point in my life, like within like these past, I think since, because it's crazy to think I transferred almost a year ago, which is crazy to me. I remember it just like yesterday, like this time last year, I was crying like all the time. I was like, Dad, Mom, like I really just like, I want to come home. And now I'm home, and I didn't expect to still be here, but like I love it. But I think like even in the healthy moments in my life, or like the happiest times, I realized that I was sometimes ruining it because I was letting my old self kind of like dictate the way that I enjoyed the moment, or the way that I was in the moment. So, you know, let's say if I was with a teammate and, you know, we were probably like going to the movies or something. And usually, you know, you want to take pictures, people want to take pictures to like savor the moment. But I feel like for me, the old me would just like, you know, you want to take pictures of everything. And that, for me, that was ruining my relationships, because I feel like people all the time just like wanted to just have pictures taken so people know that you're doing something. And so now it's just like I caught myself like having my phone out and like taking pictures of stuff, like, oh my God, yeah, we're here. And it was like, you know what, let me just like not do that. I want to like enjoy this person. You know, like those are like old habits that I don't want to have anymore. Or like whenever I would just like, we went to Vegas for Thanksgiving for our tournament, and I let one of the games like get the best of me. and I was really mean to my teammates. Instead of just like, it's just a game, you know, just be a nice person at the end of the day. And that was like the old me creeping back in, the old habits, because that stuff was allowed at my previous school, you know, like, but here it's like you actually need to be nice to people, you know. So it's like, and I like that version of me. I love that this is the culture that that's molding me into who I want to be. So it's just like, you know, that was hard. I think that's like the mountain that I've just had to kind of just like get over. I feel like those are like terrible examples, but it's just like, I feel like I've just found a lot of just like days in my life over the past like 6 months where it's just like I've just like found my old self trying to, you know, make its way back into my life and ruin the good things. So I've kind of just like had to say, you know, like, get away, you know, like, please die. Like, that's like literally, yeah.
And that's why I said earlier, starting off, like having grace in this reintroduction, but knowing that, one, God has done so much in me that things in me at the time, whether they needed to be healed or traumas or brokenness, things that just weren't whole.
Yeah.
Like evolving from those point in times when I had introduced or had been originally introduced. So it's like, again, that reintroduction to where now I'm like, hey, this is who I am. And these are my values. And I don't have to say that. My life will be fruit of my root.
Yeah.
Right?
Facts, yeah.
Like that root of love and compassion and joy that I'm wanting to overflow and burst in my life is being fruitful. And it can be seen through how I'm navigating and moving. And so I'm like that, but I also have to extend that to people. What makes you more than an athlete?
I also think the people around me who I surround myself with, they make me more than an athlete. Like if it wasn't for my sister, I wouldn't be a sister. If it wasn't for my friends, I wouldn't be a friend. You know, and if it wasn't for, you know, my parents, I wouldn't be a kid. Like I wouldn't be, you know, so I feel like we make each other things. And I feel like if I wasn't, like I said, a sister, I wouldn't spend so much time trying to pour into that cup because it wouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. But I think also because I am a sibling, I also am like an extension of someone. Mm-hmm. So it makes me want to carry myself better. Nice. And because I am a teammate, you know, it makes, like I said, like I have to carry myself in a certain way because then it reflects badly on them. You know, like, okay, well, if she acts like that, then they all must act like that. And, you know, so like you are who you surround yourself with. And I think, I feel like who you surround yourself with ultimately determines like who you are outside of like your day-to-day life, I guess you could say, or like your sport.
More than an athlete.
That was so fun.